But this got me thinking about the current state of the world. China and the U.S. are not on very great terms. We've got a real risk of an invasion of Taiwan. We've got warfare happening, obviously, in Europe. Russia right now is concerned NATO is going to invade Ukraine, occupy. And so I started thinking about what's World War III going to hold? And could it possibly be that, as we know, satellites have these lasers, at least for scanning and research purposes, LiDAR, it's called. Is it possible they have any kind of weaponization or, infrared heat lasers that can actually start fires or cause real damage?
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory time. Have fun.
I mean, I think it's definitely plausible here. I mean, I just want to clarify, maybe directed to energy weapons. I guess you have in mind the same exact sort of laser weapons that the Chinese use. Ultimately,
they do use them,
or I don't know if they do use them, or
we know that they have set lasers on satellites,
right?
And that could be a low power laser for collecting data, LiDAR. And we know the U.S. has developed infrared laser weapons because they've published this, where they've blown up drones out of the sky in testing these lasers. So the question is it possible to have any kind of weapon so powerful it could start a fire from long range? Obviously, people think the Canadian wildfires were started by either like Antifa, which I think is weird. I think it was lightning strikes, to be completely honest. But it gets me thinking about the future of warfare. And if this was warfare, like China having space weapons or something like that, Trump launching the Space Force, clearly they're entertaining these possibilities. What can we what do you guys think is World War III is going to look like? We never talk about this kind of stuff. We talk about nukes, we talk about cyber warfare, we talk about PR manipulation, but we don't talk about things outside of that realm.
I mean, it's still, that's because for the most part, this type of weapon, if it were a real weapon, like that kind of stuff is something that, I mean, everybody here is extremely unfamiliar with, obviously. If it's cutting edge technology that has no exposure to the population, like how much can you pontificate about it? Maybe it's a laser. Sick. I don't know. I don't know anything about lasers. I could, it's like I know a little more about, about if it was missiles or technology that we can currently look at.
This is kind of the point why I thought it was interesting to talk about, because I kind of feel like, I said this before, we sit here in this room and we talk about all this stuff, and the security agents and intelligence agencies are laughing how wrong we are about everything, right?
I mean, I know that there's definitely, there was a reason, as much as people like to meme on Trump about Space Force and stuff, like it is legitimate. You've got multiple companies that are delivering private satellites into low Earth orbit. That means that the technology is going to start really disseminating to other countries, and other states are going to have the ability to get into space and actually do things, whether it be monitoring or whether it be targeting with lasers and stuff like that. I mean, so it's a necessity for the future, but I mean, because it's something that we're all so unfamiliar with, talking about, or at least me talking about it, it's like, man, Star Wars was cool.
I think every cartoon villain built a laser, right? Like we were always on this path. This was always possible.
Ronald Reagan did that shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is it is hard to know the bounds of technology that you have so little information about. And I for one, am not an engineer. I don't know anything about this. But it wouldn't surprise me if there were I'm never surprised by advanced surveillance technology, and I don't know why lasers wouldn't be considered in a similar sphere. I think the idea that you would be able to launch far attacks with as much stealth as possible without having to deploy ships and all kinds of stuff, that's probably ideal for any superpower in the world. The question is, do we also have lasers?